The stars above Earth had always seemed so distant, so peaceful. For centuries, humanity gazed upward, wondering if they were alone. They weren't. In the grand chamber of the Doran imperial vessel, Conqueror, Admiral Kang stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The massive view screen showed a blue-green planet, Earth, spinning slowly against the backdrop of space. Kang's face, marked with the ritual scars of his many victories, remained expressionless, but his dark eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Primitive," he said softly, watching the data scroll across secondary screens. "Their most advanced weapons wouldn't scratch our hull plating." Officer Sun nodded respectfully. "They've only reached their moon, Admiral. Their technology is at least 2 centuries behind the Empire's minimum standards." The Doran Empire had conquered 17 star systems and subjugated over 200 worlds in their relentless expansion. Their sleek biomechanical ships resembled massive insects, dark purple and blue hulls with sharp angles and pulsing veins of energy. Inside, creatures that looked almost human moved with cold efficiency, their pale skin glowing faintly under the blue lights. "The Council wants a standard first contact protocol," Officer Sun continued. "Assessment period followed by negotiated submission." Kang snorted, his enhanced nostrils flaring. "We've wasted enough time. I've studied these humans. They're stubborn, fractious, and will never submit willingly." He gestured to the tactical display. "Look at them, they can't even unite their own planet. They spend their resources fighting each other. But the protocols will delay our glory," Kang interrupted. "I didn't become admiral by following bureaucratic nonsense." He tapped his metal-infused fingers against the console. "I'll convince the Council that swift pacification is the only way." 3 days later, Kang stood before the Council's holographic projections. 5 elderly Dorans whose bodies were more machine than flesh after centuries of technological enhancements. "These humans show promise," said Councillor Ryu, her voice mechanical and cold. "Their art, their music, they create despite their limitations. They're primitive and dangerous," Kang countered, projecting images of Earth's wars. "Give them a century and they might become a threat. We should strike now, while they're blind to our presence." After hours of debate, the Council granted Kang's request with one condition. Earth was to be conquered intact, its people preserved as laborers and test subjects. Kang agreed readily, hiding his true intentions behind his ceremonial mask. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Kim yawned as she adjusted the observatory's powerful telescope. The night had been long and uneventful at the remote Chilean facility. With her short black hair and perpetual coffee mug, she hardly looked like someone about to make history's most important discovery. "Another quiet night," her assistant Hani remarked, scrolling through data on his tablet. "Science is mostly quiet nights," Dr. Kim replied with a smile, "until it isn't." The telescope's alarm sounded, startling them both. Dr. Kim rushed to the console, her eyes widening as she saw the readings. "That can't be right," she whispered, adjusting settings frantically. "Han, look at this." The images showed strange light patterns near Jupiter, systematic geometric formations that defied natural explanation. Dr. Kim's heart raced as she captured and enhanced the images. "We need to call someone," Han said, his voice shaking. "The government, the military, they'll think we're crazy," Dr. Kim replied, though she was already sending the data to colleagues worldwide. "We need more evidence." Across the globe, military sensors detected the anomalies too. In Pentagon's underground command center, General Park stared at the blinking alerts on his screen. "Probably sensor ghosts," the technician told him. "We've been having equipment issues all week," General Park nodded reluctantly. "Run diagnostics and clear the false readings." If only they had listened. 7 days later, the skies above Earth's major cities darkened as massive Doran ships emerged from hyperspace. Their arrival was like nothing humanity had imagined, not the friendly encounters of hopeful science fiction, nor the immediate destruction of doomsday predictions. The ships simply appeared, hanging impossibly in the air above New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai, and 30 other population centers. Each vessel was the size of a small city, blocking the sun and casting long shadows across terrified populations below. In her observatory, Dr. Kim watched in horror as her computer screens filled with incoming data. They're positioning themselves strategically, she realized. This isn't random. Admiral Kang stood on his command bridge, watching the panic unfold on Earth's surface. Send the warning, he ordered. Let them know exactly who has come to claim them. Across Earth, every electronic device, televisions, phones, computers, suddenly displayed the same message in every language. The Doran Empire claims this world. Resistance is futile and will be met with necessary force. Surrender will be rewarded with survival. World leaders scrambled to respond. Military forces mobilized in confusion, and civilians fled or watched in stunned silence. No one knew what to do against an enemy, so advanced they could hack every device on the planet simultaneously. Humanity's response? Kang asked his communications officer. Disorganized, Admiral. Their military forces are attempting to surround. Our vessels and their governments are trying to establish communication. Kang smiled, revealing teeth that had been replaced with metallic implants. Perfect. Begin the first strike. Show them the consequences of defiance. Without warning, precision energy beams lanced down from the Doran ships, destroying military installations across the globe. Not the full-scale devastation many had feared, but surgical strikes that eliminated humanity's ability to fight back. The first day of the invasion ended with Earth's military forces in ruins, its governments in chaos, and its people gripped by terror. For the Doran Empire, it was just another conquest beginning. For humanity, it was the end of everything they had known. But also, though they couldn't see it yet, the beginning of the greatest resistance the galaxy would ever witness. 3 weeks. After the initial attack, the old mining tunnels beneath Mount Taybake had transformed into humanity's last hope. Commander Park wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the makeshift map spread across a battered metal table. Red marks showed. Confirmed Doran outposts. Blue indicated remaining human strongholds. Too few and far between. They've taken the entire eastern seaboard, said his second-in-command, Captain Jin, pointing to freshly added markings. Her uniform was torn and dirty, but her eyes remained sharp. And they're pushing west faster than we predicted, Commander. Park nodded grimly. Once a decorated Special Forces officer, he now led what remained of 3 military units plus 200 civilian survivors. What about the European resistance? Still fighting, but communications are spotty at best. Outside, the rain beat against the camouflaged entrance to their bunker. Inside, the air smelled of damp earth, sweat, and desperation. "Sir!" A young soldier burst into the command room. "You need to see this!" They followed him to the communications center, where a technician was frantically adjusting knobs on salvaged equipment. "It happened again," the technician said excitedly. "When we tried using the old AM radio frequencies, their patrol ship just glitched." On a small monitor, grainy footage showed a Doran scout vessel, sleek and insect-like, suddenly trembling. Mid-air, its purple energy signature flickering before stabilizing again. "Play it again," ordered Park, leaning closer. After watching 3 more times, he straightened up. "It's not coincidence. Something about that frequency disrupts their systems. Could be electromagnetic interference," Captain Jin suggested. "Their tech might have a vulnerability our primitive systems accidentally exploit." For the first time since the invasion, Commander Park smiled. "Gather everyone with engineering or communications experience. We might have just found our first real advantage." Meanwhile, across the continent, Dr. Kim huddled in the basement of what had once been a university science building. The windows were blacked out, and the only light came from computer screens and a few battery-powered lamps. "I almost have it," said Lee, his fingers flying across a keyboard. At 17, he had been a programming prodigy before the invasion. Now he was a crucial part of the resistance. "Almost isn't good enough," Dr. Kim replied, though her tone was gentle. "We need to understand their communications if we're going to have any chance." For days they had been capturing and analyzing the strange modulated signals the Doran ships used to communicate. The aliens' language was complex, partly digital, partly biological, and nothing like human communication systems. "Wait," Lee suddenly froze. "Look at this pattern. It repeats exactly every 7 minutes. Dr. Kim's eyes widened. It's like a synchronization pulse. They're coordinating something big. Above them, the world was changing rapidly. The Dorans had established processing centers in major cities where humans were sorted based on criteria no one understood. Some were taken to labor camps, others to research facilities. Resistance was met with swift but calculated violence. The aliens clearly wanted to preserve as much of Earth's population as possible. Admiral Kang stood in his command center, his frustration evident in the twitching of his facial implants. "Explain again why we haven't secured the western regions," he demanded. Officer Sun projected a holographic map. "The humans are proving unexpectedly resilient, Admiral. Their formal military structures collapsed as expected, but they've adapted to guerrilla tactics with remarkable speed. They're primitives." Kang slammed his fist on the console. "They should have surrendered by now." "That's just it, sir. They don't surrender. Even when completely outmatched, they continue fighting." Kang had conquered 12 worlds personally, and never had he encountered such stubborn resistance from a technologically inferior species. It both infuriated and intrigued him. "We lost another supply convoy in this mountain region," Sun continued, highlighting an area. "And 3 scout ships have reported system failures when flying over these." "Coordinates," Kang's eyes narrowed. "System failures? Our technology doesn't simply fail." Back in the mountain bunker, Commander Park's team had turned their discovery into a weapon. They had modified old radio equipment into portable disruptors that could temporarily interfere with Doran systems at close range. "It won't stop them permanently," explained Technician Yoon, demonstrating the backpack-sized device to a group of fighters. "But it gives us about 20 seconds of advantage when their systems reset." 20 seconds is all we need," said one of the soldiers, patting her rifle. That night, they launched their first coordinated counterattack. 3 teams struck simultaneously at Doran outposts, using the disruptors to momentarily blind alien sensors and disable their energy weapons. Captain Jin led the assault on the northernmost post. As her team approached the gleaming purple structure, she activated the disruptor. The effect was immediate. The pulsing lights on the Doran building flickered and died, and the 2 guard drones dropped to the ground. Their anti-gravity systems temporarily offline. "Move," she hissed, and her fighters rushed forward, placing explosive charges before retreating into the forest. The explosion illuminated the night sky, and for the first time, humans witnessed Doran panic as confused alien. Soldiers emerged from the burning structure. Similar scenes played out at the other targets. By dawn, the resistance had destroyed 3 outposts without losing a single fighter. In her makeshift lab, Dr. Kim received the news with cautious optimism while continuing her work. "They'll adapt quickly," she warned over the secure line to Commander Park. "We need more than just these disruptors." "That's where you come in," Park replied. "Any progress decoding their communications?" "Lee thinks he's identified their command protocols. If he's right, we might be able to do more than just jam their signals. We could potentially feed them false information." As she spoke, Lee was testing his theory, carefully injecting modified code into a captured Doran communication device. The alien technology was partially biological, with circuits that seemed to grow rather than being manufactured, making it both fascinating and nightmarish to work with. "Got it!" Lee suddenly exclaimed. The device pulsed with blue light, accepting his commands. Dr. Kim watched in amazement as Doran text scrolled across their screen. "We're in," she whispered. Across Earth, similar breakthroughs were happening. As humans discovered that their perceived weakness, their technological simplicity, was actually protecting them from the integrated systems the Dorans relied upon. Old analog technologies, long abandoned but still functional, became the backbone of the resistance. In his command ship, Admiral Kang received increasingly concerning reports. His easy conquest was becoming a grinding war of attrition against an enemy that refused to acknowledge its inevitable defeat. "Find their leaders," he ordered coldly. "Find their hidden bases, whatever it takes." What Kang didn't understand, couldn't understand, was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their discoveries about Doran technology. It was their refusal to accept conquest as their destiny. In bunkers and basements and mountain hideaways, humans were doing what they had always done best, adapting, innovating, and preparing to reclaim their world. Rain poured down as commander. Park studied Earth's last hope through night vision goggles. 3 Doran guards patrolled the perimeter of the small landing field where a sleek alien shuttle rested, its purple-black hull glistening under artificial lights. The craft resembled a massive dragonfly with sweeping wings that doubled as energy collectors. "Now," Park whispered into his radio. Across the valley, 50 disruptors activated simultaneously, the distinct electromagnetic pulse, inaudible to humans but devastating to Doran technology, swept across the compound. The effect was immediate. Security lights flickered and died. The hovering sentry drones dropped from the sky like dead insects. Even the Doran guards staggered, their neural implants temporarily disabled. "Team 1, move in," Park ordered. "Captain." Jin led the first assault team across the muddy field, their movements practiced and precise. The disoriented Doran guards didn't see them coming until it was too late. Silent weapons dropped the aliens before they could sound an alarm. 20 seconds until systems reboot, came Lee's voice through the radio. The teenage hacker had developed a precise timer for their disruptors. Park watched as Team 2 reached the shuttle. "Remember, we need it intact. Use the override codes." 3. Months of fighting had changed them all. The resistance fighters moved with hardened efficiency that would have been unimaginable during peacetime. They had learned that the Dorans, for all their technological superiority, had patterns, weaknesses, and a dangerous overconfidence that humans now ruthlessly exploited. Inside the shuttle, Technician Yoon placed a small device against what they had identified as the main access panel. Lee's decoded algorithms flowed through the connection, confusing the ship's security systems. The door hissed open. "We're in," Yoon reported, neutralizing crew. The interior of the Doran craft was like nothing humans had built. Organic curves blended with technological components, pulsing with internal energy. The ship was partly alive, with biological components integrated into its systems. 15 seconds remaining, Lee warned as resistance fighters secured the vessel. "Package delivered," Jin announced, withdrawing. Just as the compound systems began to reboot, the assault teams vanished back into the surrounding forest. They left behind no evidence of their presence, except for the small device now attached to the shuttle's communication array. This scene was repeating across the globe. After months of preparation, humanity's counterattack had begun. Not with grand battles or frontal assaults, but with infiltration, sabotage, and the quiet hijacking of the invaders' own technology. In the Doran command vessel, hovering above what had once been Shanghai, Admiral Kang was about to deliver his weekly status report to the Imperial Council when the hologram projectors malfunctioned. "Technical difficulties," he growled to his staff. "Fix it immediately." Officer Sun worked frantically at her console. "It's not just the projectors, Admiral. We're experiencing communication disruptions across the entire network." Kang's eyes narrowed. "Isolated malfunction?" "No, sir," Sun replied, her voice tense. "Reports are coming in from all sectors. Every communication relay on the planet is experiencing the same issue. We're being jammed." "Impossible!" Kang's fist came down hard on his command chair. "These primitives can't possibly understand our technology well enough to—" He stopped mid-sentence as every screen in the command center suddenly displayed the same image. A simple red circle on a white background, the symbol the human resistance had adopted. Back in the mountain bunker, Dr. Kim and Lee monitored the global operation from their command center. What had once been a simple basement was now filled with a mixture of salvaged human technology and repurposed Doran equipment. "Phase 1 successful," Dr. Kim announced, watching as green confirmation lights appeared on their global map. "All communication relays have accepted our override, Commander." Park nodded grimly. "Begin Phase 2. Lee's fingers danced across his modified interface. Uploading false tactical data now. They had discovered that the Dorans relied completely on their integrated information network, much more than humans ever had, while Earth militaries still, trained with paper maps and backup systems, the invaders had no such redundancies. They trusted their technology implicitly. That trust would now be their downfall. All across Earth, Doran commanders suddenly received contradictory orders. Security forces abandoned strategic positions based on false alerts. Supply ships changed course, delivering crucial resources to locations where no Doran forces waited. And in the chaotic 24 hours that followed, human resistance cells struck the disoriented invaders. Weapons caches were raided. Prisoners were freed. Carefully planted explosives destroyed key Doran infrastructure. 3 days into the counter-offensive, Admiral Kang stood among the ruins of what had been his forward command post in the European sector. 7 of his officers lay dead, their bodies already being reclaimed by the biological components of their armor. "How?" he demanded of Officer Sun, who had survived the attack. "How are they coordinating these strikes? We've destroyed all their military communication infrastructure." Sun looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "We believe they're using our own network, Admiral. Somehow they've inserted themselves into our secure channels." Kang's enhanced vision turned red with fury. "I want reprisals, immediate and severe. Target their population centers. Show them the cost of defiance." "Sir," Sun hesitated, "the Council specifically ordered that civilian casualties be minimized. The humans are to be preserved as a resource." "The Council isn't here," Kang roared. "I will not be humiliated by primitive monkeys who haven't even left their own solar system." His orders went out, and for a terrible week, Doran forces struck. Civilian targets with brutal efficiency. Towns were leveled, refugee camps bombarded, food supplies destroyed. But the effect was the opposite of what Kang intended. Instead of breaking human resolve, the atrocities only hardened it. Thousands of ordinary civilians flocked to join resistance cells. People who had been hiding in fear now fought in rage. Meanwhile, in a hidden facility beneath the mountains, Commander Park supervised as engineers, and scientists swarmed over the captured Doran shuttle. They had successfully transported it to their main research base using a combination of tunnels and camouflaged routes. "It's incredible," Dr. Kim told him, looking up from her analysis. "Their propulsion system doesn't just bend space, it partially exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously." "Can we use it?" Park asked bluntly. "Not immediately, but there's something even more valuable here." She led him to where technicians had opened a panel revealing the ship's weapon systems. "Their energy weapons are powerful, but surprisingly simple in concept. We can adapt our own technology to create something similar." Park studied the alien components. "How long?" "Give us 2 weeks." "You have one," he replied. "Admiral Kang is getting desperate. The more we hurt them, the harder they'll strike back." "What?" The Dorans couldn't comprehend was that humanity's entire history had prepared them for this moment. Unlike the species that had fallen easily to the Empire, humans had never stopped fighting, against nature, against each other, against limitations. Conflict and struggle were woven into their DNA in a way the long-dominant Dorans couldn't understand. As the counter-offensive entered its second week, the invaders faced a terrible realization. They weren't fighting a war of conquest anymore. They were fighting for survival against an enemy that refused to recognize its technological inferiority as a reason to surrender. And that enemy had just captured their first starship. The captured Doran shuttle had been completely transformed. Where sleek purple-black biological components once pulsed with alien energy, human engineers had grafted their own technology into the living ship. The vessel now looked like some bizarre hybrid creature, part alien dragonfly, part human industrial. Design Commander Park ran his hand along a newly installed control panel. "Will she fly?" he asked, not bothering to hide the doubt in his voice. Dr. Kim nodded, her eyes sunken from weeks of barely sleeping. "The biological components have accepted our modifications. She's not pretty, but she'll hold together for what we need." What they needed was nothing short of a miracle. 3 days earlier, their long-range sensors had detected a massive hyperspace distortion forming at the edge of the solar system. The Doran reinforcement fleet was coming, hundreds of warships that would overwhelm Earth's hard-won resistance in days. "Show me the weapon again," Park said. They moved deeper into the ship to a chamber that had once been the shuttle's living quarters. Now it housed a device that looked deceptively simple, a sphere the size of a beach ball, covered in intricate circuitry and filled with a swirling blue-white energy. "We call it the Nexus Disruptor," Dr. Kim explained. It creates a feedback loop in the hyperspace field. When detonated at the central nexus of their empire, it should collapse their entire transportation network. Should? Park raised an eyebrow. The math checks out, she replied firmly. But no one has ever attempted anything like this. The Dorans built their empire around their hyperspace technology. They can instantly transport between hundreds of worlds through their central nexus. If we destroy it, they're stranded, isolated, unable to coordinate. Park finished the thought. What remained unsaid was the cost. The ship would need to travel through hyperspace to reach the center of the Doran Empire, a journey deeper into enemy territory than any human had ever gone. And whoever piloted it would not be coming back. 12 hours later, Earth's Unified Defense Council gathered in the mountain bunker's main chamber. Representatives from every surviving resistance cell were present, either in person or via secure communication. The reinforcement fleet will arrive in 4 days, General Choi announced, projecting the latest sensor data. The elderly officer had emerged from retirement to coordinate what remained of Earth's military forces. We have confirmed at least 300 capital ships plus support vessels. A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. They had barely managed to fight the initial invasion force to a standstill. Against such overwhelming numbers, defeat was certain. Then we must strike now, Commander Park said, stepping forward. Dr. Kim and her team have prepared the counterstrike we discussed. I will personally lead the mission. The room erupted in arguments. Some insisted the plan was too risky, others that Park was too valuable to sacrifice. Through it all, the commander stood silent, his decision already made. Finally, Captain Jin's voice cut through the chaos. I've seen what the Dorans do to occupied worlds firsthand, she said quietly. If there's even a small chance this works, we have to take it. The vote was unanimous. Operation Shatterpoint would proceed. That night, as the modified Doran shuttle was prepared for launch, Dr. Kim found Park in the observation room, staring at the stars through a reinforced skylight. The navigation system is set, she told him. It will take you directly to their central nexus. Their security will be tight, but the ship's transponder should get you through the initial checkpoints. After that, I improvise, Park finished, with a grim smile. I've gotten good at that these past months. Dr. Kim hesitated, then handed him a small data drive. This contains everything we've learned about the Dorans, their biology, their technology, their society. If something goes wrong with the primary mission, find a way to get this to their subject worlds. The Empire has enemies. We're not alone in resisting them. Dawn broke over the mountain base as the launch team made final preparations. The retrofitted shuttle sat on the hidden runway, its hybrid systems humming with power. Commander Park stood before the assembled volunteers who would remain behind to face the coming invasion. When I was a child, he told them, his voice steady, my grandfather told me stories of his father who fought in our last great war. He said that sometimes victory isn't about who has the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's about who is willing to sacrifice more for what they believe in. He looked at their faces. Engineers, soldiers, teachers, farmers, all transformed by necessity into warriors. The Dorans don't understand sacrifice, he continued. They've conquered through overwhelming force for so long that they've forgotten what it means to fight against impossible odds. That's their weakness, and our strength. With those words, he boarded the shuttle. The craft's engines flared to life, a strange mixture of alien energy and human engineering creating a blue-purple glow. The vessel rose slowly, then accelerated upward, disappearing into the clouds. Captain Jin watched until the ship vanished from sight. Commence Operation Last Stand, she ordered. We need to buy him every minute we can. Across Earth, resistance. Forces implemented their final defense plans. They couldn't stop the coming Doran fleet, but they could make landing so costly that the invaders would be focused on the ground battle rather than a single shuttle slipping away. In space, Commander Park navigated through the debris field that had once been Earth's satellite network. The shuttle's systems functioned better than expected, responding to his commands with only occasional glitches. As he passed the moon, he allowed himself one look back at Earth, a blue jewel hanging in the darkness. Then he activated the hyperspace drive. The journey to the heart of the Doran Empire took barely 6 hours through hyperspace. When the shuttle emerged, Park found himself facing a massive structure that defied comprehension. The central nexus, an artificial construct the size of a small moon, with hundreds of ships constantly arriving and departing through shimmering portals. "Unidentified vessel, transmit authorization codes immediately," came a voice over the communication system. Park sent the codes they had stolen months earlier, holding his breath. After a pause, "Proceed to Maintenance Dock 7 for inspection." The shuttle moved forward, joining the flow of traffic toward the enormous structure. Park guided it precisely according to plan, until the last moment when he suddenly veered away, accelerating toward the Nexus core. Alarms blared. Energy weapons began tracking his position, but he had the element of surprise, and the shuttle's small size made it difficult to target among the heavy traffic. "For Earth," Park whispered, as he reached the central chamber and activated the Nexus disruptor. Blue-white energy surged through the ship as the countdown began. His last act was to transmit a simple message on all frequencies. "From Earth, with regards." The explosion began as a tiny point of light at the center of the Nexus. Then reality itself seemed to buckle as hyperspace energy collapsed in on itself, creating a cascading failure that spread outward like a tsunami. Ships caught in transit were instantly stranded between dimensions. The Nexus structure shattered like glass, and throughout the vast Doran Empire, for the first time in millennia, the hyperspace network went dark. The sunrise over the rebuilt city skyline painted everything in golden light. Captain Jin stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Unity Tower, watching as construction drones, built with salvaged Doran technology, worked alongside human crews to raise another building from the ruins. 1 year had passed since Commander Park's sacrifice at the heart of the Doran Empire. 1 year since the hyperspace network collapsed, stranding the reinforcement fleet halfway to Earth. 1 year of rebuilding, recovering, and preparing. "Beautiful morning," said a familiar voice behind her. Jin turned to see Dr. Kim approaching, holding 2 steaming cups. She offered one to Jin. "Tea?" Jin asked, accepting the cup. "Coffee," Dr. Kim corrected with a smile. "Real coffee. The southern agricultural zones are producing again." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city come to life below. Where Doran occupation centers once stood, human architecture now blended seamlessly with alien technology. Hovering vehicles zipped between buildings along designated flight paths. People moved through streets that glowed softly with embedded energy systems. "The Phoenix completes final testing today," Dr. Kim said eventually. "They want both of us." "There." Jin nodded. The Phoenix represented humanity's greatest achievement, the first starship built by human hands, incorporating the best of Earth technology with everything they had learned from their defeated invaders. "Have you spoken with him?" Dr. Kim asked quietly. Jin didn't need to ask who she meant. "This morning. The neural upload is stable. The doctors say his consciousness has fully integrated with the ship's systems." What Dr. Kim didn't say, what neither of them needed to say, was how miraculous it had been. When the hyperspace nexus collapsed, something impossible happened. Commander Park didn't die. Instead, his consciousness was somehow scattered through the collapsing network, preserved in fragments across dimensions, until Earth scientists found a way to retrieve and reassemble him. He wasn't human anymore. Not exactly. But he wasn't gone either. Later that day, they stood in the massive hangar that housed the Phoenix. Unlike the insectoid designs of Doran ships, the Phoenix resembled a massive silver bird, its wings housing advanced engines that could bend space itself. "She's ready," said Chief Engineer Yoon, unable to hide his pride. Every system exceeds specifications. The gathered crowd, scientists, military personnel, and government representatives from Earth's newly unified nations, broke into applause. Jin moved toward the ship and placed her hand against its hull. "Can you hear me?" she asked softly. "There, sir." Ship's external speakers crackled to life. "Always, Captain." Commander Park's voice had a slight digital quality now, but the warmth and determination remained unmistakably his. "Is it strange?" she asked. "Being the ship?" "Less than you might think," Park replied. I see more clearly now than I ever did, and I can still complete the mission. The mission had evolved beyond mere survival. With the Doran threat neutralized, humanity had gained something precious: time. Time to prepare for a galaxy they now knew was filled with both wonders and dangers. Earth's scientists and engineers had worked tirelessly to understand the technology they'd captured. Advances that might have taken centuries had been accomplished in months. Medicine, energy production, communications, every field had been revolutionized, but perhaps the most valuable discovery had come from the Doran databases. Earth wasn't alone in resisting the Empire. Dozens of species across hundreds of worlds had been subjugated, their cultures suppressed, their resources exploited. Many of these worlds had been isolated for generations, with no knowledge that others suffered the same fate, until now. The crowd fell silent as the global president stepped forward. The elderly woman had led Earth's unified government through the final days of the war and the challenging months of reconstruction. "Today we take our place among the stars," she announced, "not as conquerors like those who sought to enslave us, but as liberators and allies. The Phoenix carries ambassadors to every world once held by the Doran Empire, offering friendship and mutual defense. What our enemies intended for evil, we will transform into the greatest alliance the galaxy has ever known." More applause, more speeches. But Jin found her attention drawn to a screen showing a live feed from deep space. The remnants of the Doran fleet, those ships that had escaped the collapse of their hyperspace network, were in disarray. Without central coordination from the Imperial Council, the once mighty armada had fractured into competing factions, and according to intelligence reports, rebellions had broken out on dozens of former Doran colony worlds. Species long oppressed were rising up, inspired by the story of how small primitive Earth had brought down an empire that spanned the stars. 2 days later, Jin stood on the Phoenix's bridge as final launch preparations were completed. Dr. Kim worked at a console nearby, coordinating with the science team. "Ready for atmospheric departure," reported the navigation officer. Jin took her command chair. "Commander Park, status?" "All systems optimal, Captain," the shipman replied. "I've plotted our course to the Centauri system first. Our intelligence suggests the native species there have been fighting Doran occupation forces for decades." "Then let's not keep them waiting," Jin said. "Earth Control, requesting clearance for launch." As the Phoenix rose majestically from its cradle, cheering, crowds gathered at viewpoints across the planet. The ship's engines glowed with brilliant blue energy as it accelerated upward, quickly becoming a bright star against the daytime sky. Aboard the bridge, Jin watched Earth recede below them. "I wish you could see this," she said quietly. "I can." "See it?" Park's voice replied from all around them. "Better than ever before, and soon I'll see worlds no human has ever visited." The Phoenix passed through the upper atmosphere, the blue sky darkening to the black of space. Earth's defense platforms, once Doran weapons now turned to protect the planet, tracked their departure, sending formal salutes via light signals. "Preparing for first jump," Dr. Kim announced. Jin leaned forward in her chair. "Take us out, Commander." The Phoenix's engines surged, as space itself seemed to fold around the ship. In a flash of light that outshone the stars, humanity's first ambassador vessel vanished into the depths of space, carrying Earth's message to the galaxy. "We are not alone. We are not afraid. And we are coming to help." The stars themselves seemed to bear witness. Earth had not merely survived its first contact with an alien empire, it had emerged stronger, more united, and with a deeper understanding of its place in the cosmos. Our first warning was, indeed, their last. The end.